Welcome to HR Voices, a podcast where people leaders share their side of the story. We talk about the challenges they're facing, how they're addressing them, and what changes they hope to see as the workplace evolves. This podcast is sponsored by All Voices, the all-in-one employee relations platform. Hello and welcome to HR Voices. My name's Rebecca Taylor. I'm your host, and I'm here with Stephanie Lovinger-Roseman. She's the Chief People Officer at Fortis Fire Safety. Stephanie, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Can we start off by telling us a little bit about your role and about Fortis and what you all do?
Sure. So I'm the Chief People Officer here at Fortis Fire Safety. What we do is fire safety systems and integrated security. But what that actually means on a day-to-day basis is you go into a building, you'll see the sprinkler systems on the ceilings, fire suppression systems, fire extinguishers, alarm systems, or even unfortunately, like on college campuses, all of those lockdown systems.
Mm-hmm.
We install them and then we do all of the servicing and maintenance on them. We do regular inspections that are required by law. And then if we find any deficiencies, we'll repair those as well. So we get to take care of people when they're least thinking of it.
Yeah. It's funny because I immediately start to see connections between what you do and the HR function in general, right? It's kind of like operating
Yeah.
in the background to make sure that everything's safe and okay. And then, sometimes it's only when things start to go wrong that people start to kind of realize who you are and what you do. And it's just an important, critical kind of background and backbone to what everybody kind of experiences in any space, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great analogy.
Yeah. So we started to talk a little bit about this, but I want to kind of chat a little bit more about what are, as you're kind of looking at managing a workforce going through just so much change between technology, hybrid work, on-site work, remote work, whatever that might look like. What are some of the challenges that you're facing right now as an organization or even just as an HR team?
Yeah. So the insight that I have, we actually just did an employee survey. And so I would say attention to what the employees are feeling right now, financial squeeze, right? I mean, I think everyone's feeling a financial squeeze given what's going on in the economy, job security, and career growth. Like those are the three big things that we heard in addition to like general communication needs from our employees during the survey. We don't have the hybrid remote issue because our technicians are on site. So
Right.
what we're selling is people there servicing what you need. And so we really enjoy being an on-site workforce. I know this sounds cheesy. I get a lot of energy from being in the office with other people, and that's the team
Yeah.
that we've built here is people that enjoy being together.
Yeah. I don't think it sounds cheesy. I think it's like everyone has their thing, right? Everyone has environments that they thrive in and environments that they don't. And I don't think that there's a one size fits all solution for everybody. And I think if you find that being on site, is great and you have a workforce that feels the same way too, it's like let's just do that. I think it's a good
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about some of the surveys that you've done and some of the things that, you've kind of surfaced. Job security, I think, is something that I see sort of across the board too. It's like even because you see so many talks of layoffs, you see just a lot of people worried about technology like AI taking their jobs. There is just a lot of fear, I think, even if someone's job is secure, right? It's
Yeah.
like sometimes you have to kind of navigate helping people to kind of differentiate between what they see and what their sort of lived reality and sort of situation is within their role. So when you're looking at results like that, what are some things that you typically do to kind of start to either share that type of feedback with the broader employee base, meet with leadership teams, act on it? Like, what's your typical approach once you start to see that data?
Yeah, so we did a couple of things. One, obviously, we looked at the data and sat with the executive leadership team and talked about what we could do from where we sit. But truly, our frontline employees are counting on their branch management for those types
Mm,
of reassurances and that type of information. So we broke down the data in many, many different ways and sat down with
yeah.
branch management and talked about what their specific branch needed and was looking for. And we're taking some actions in relation to what the feedback was. We're actually having a town hall next week to talk through with all of our employees. Here's what we heard you say, right? One of the most important things everybody knows out of a survey is here, we heard you, here's the action that we're taking, and then following up
Mhm.
and saying, and here's the action we took. Remember, this is what you told us. And so we're going to
Yeah.
follow that pattern. We are not inventing anything unique, but no, learning from others, and really being transparent. I think our employees are really seeking information, just
Yeah.
transparent information. What are you doing? What are you investing in? Where's the money going? How are we going to have job security? How are we going to continue to be able to grow? And so we're investing in different areas to ensure that for all of them, and we're going to be really clear with them about where those investments are and how they're going to tangibly see them.
Yeah. I think it's great that you're being open and transparent too, because I'm curious kind of what you think about this, because there's always sort of been this call for transparency from employees, right? And there's companies that have transparency as a value, and that means it can mean so many different things. So, how do you balance the line between sharing information openly and transparently with the workforce and also balancing things like executive privilege information or, things that is not maybe for mass consumption, but I guess how do you kind of balance that?
Yeah, one of the things I've always said to my teams, and I say it a lot here as well, is I'm going to tell you everything I can tell you as soon as I can tell you. So they
Mhm.
know that there isn't anything that's being withheld that's being done so in a malicious manner. Because I think that's where employees start to distrust is if they feel like something's scripted or not
Yeah.
genuine. And so I will tell them everything I can tell them as soon as I can tell them. One of the examples of that was we went through open enrollment and we had a fair number of changes. And I said to my CEO, I'm going to hit the road. I want to stand in front of the employees. I want to walk them through what the benefits are. I want to answer their questions and I want them to tell me if they hate the benefit changes, right? I
Yeah.
want to hear it. I want to hear why they hate it. Data's great, but also it's very you get the larger picture, but there are individual stories and the individual stories are important. And so I try to get out, I try to share with them what's going on, hand out my business card. They're free to contact me. I'm not going to hide behind something just to hide behind it. If I can't
Yeah.
tell them, I'll say, I can't tell you. Here's when I
Yeah.
think I can get you the information. And I think that starts to build trust.
Yeah.
And I think it helps them to believe in what you're saying, right? I think that's the important part is that they know they can count on you to share the information that they need to know.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that you're not sometimes it's kind of like if there are uncomfortable changes, our human instinct might be to avoid any type of conflict around that or whatever that is. And I always say that HR is always about being braver than the things that you're afraid of, because it might mean that you might hear feedback that's uncomfortable. It might mean that, you're dealing with employees that aren't satisfied with something. And we don't get to not participate in those conversations. Like we have to, if anything, really lead those and embrace them even when it is uncomfortable, especially around things like benefits, right? Because that's the part of the job other than salary that really kind of influences someone's livelihood. Especially I know there's been a lot of changes to benefits this year in general, just because of the change of cost and everything like that. So
Yes.
I know that you're not alone, and anyone who's listening to this is not alone if you've also been having those types of conversations with your employees, because it's important to be able to show up and kind of give them the space to react or the space to kind of chat and ask questions.
Yeah, one of the things that we did in that vein was when we laid out the plan designs as well as the costs, we on the slides directly, if it was a positive change for the employee, it was green. And if it was a negative
Mm.
change for the employee, it was red. I said, I'm going to call it
Ooh,
right out. I want you to
yeah,
understand what's changing and understand the financial impact to you so you can make an educated decision about which plan you want to be on. And I got a
yeah,
lot of good feedback about that because they were able to, it wasn't like I was playing a game where they had to go hunt for the information. I was laying it
yeah.
right out for them.
Yeah. I think it's really smart too, because it's like that's sometimes with benefits, it can be confusing, even if it's terms that we might know very well, deductible, premium, all these things. Like when you're speaking to someone who doesn't live and breathe that language all the time, it can feel really overwhelming to understand, wait, is this a good change? Is this a bad change? Like, what does this mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. And I think it also kind of shows a really good partnership with leadership and with employees to be able to kind of say, "Hey, we're going to help to we're going to help to give context to this information. We're not just going to give you the information." Because context is really the stuff that most people are craving, I think, when they ask for transparency.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about the challenges, which are kind of, I think part of the role, but I think it's also fun to kind of talk about the other side of things too. Like, what's something that you're excited about that you and your team are working on right now?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that we're working on, but simplification, I think, is kind of
Mm,
the theme of the year. So we just went through, we're about to launch our new handbook where we took it from hundreds of pages down to a core handbook of 40. Very simple, easy to understand because that's
nice.
the goal, right? Like
Yeah.
these are adults, we want to treat them like adults. That was
Yes.
one thing. The other is designing incentives for our employees to reward them for productivity, outstanding behaviors, really going above and beyond. Because of that compensation concern that we talked about earlier, I want
Hmm.
to reward the people who are giving that extraneous effort,
Yeah.
and I want to make sure that we're doing it in actually a very transparent way, right? So you're going to be able to see when your peer gets recognized for doing one extra inspection in a day, let's call it that. And if you want to be able to increase your compensation, it's a very clear route to be able to do it as well. So I'm excited about that because I think there's a lot of neat things that are happening here in pockets, and I don't know that everyone's aware of them, and I don't know that people realize like the advantage they have by having them. So I want to centralize it. I want to celebrate it. So I'm excited about that because we're in the process of looking at vendors to partner with, to be able to have that be a very central thing that we can do to celebrate driver safety, because we have a
Yeah.
fleet, right, and all those amazing behaviors that people exhibit
Yeah.
because they're hardworking.
Yeah. I think that's really cool is just being able to kind of celebrate different behaviors and attaching those behaviors to some kind of an incentive. Because that's the hard part is, understanding someone is concerned about salary. The worst thing you can do is say, well, then get another job or it is what it is. And I'm sure you could probably believe, but you wouldn't believe the amount of times I've heard people use that as their response. And it's just the wrong way to build that trust. And if you can give employees sort of an incentive to exhibit the behaviors that the company wants them to exhibit, either to increase performance or even just, adapt the right values, the right behaviors, if you can attach incentives to that, then people are going to be more realistically willing to do it. Um,
And
because it's
it's
good to be
clear,
passionate,
right?
but sometimes people just need a paycheck too.
Yeah, and it's clear, it's transparent, it's easy for them to understand what they need to do to get more. That's kind of what we're trying to simplify, we're trying to be really clear. And
Yeah.
I think those are 2 things that employees universally, not just here, but universally are
Yeah.
asking for, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think AI really helps with that too. Not to make everything about AI, but it's just where my brain automatically goes because it's sort of, and I actually spoke with this about someone on another episode. AI kind of gives you the chance to scale personalization of someone's work experience or of their, workplace experience because if someone can get feedback on the things that they do really well and the things that they don't, then that feedback turns into some kind of a performance plan that sort of says if you want to get to the next level, here are the performance metrics specifically for the things that you need to do, and then it can sort of track that. That's like that's it's a way to kind of motivate people the way they need to be motivated, put everybody so that they're not all being told the same thing when they might all have different efficiencies and inefficiencies in different areas. And it's sort of, I think it's the part that I think is really interesting about what AI can do is the way that it can sort of allow you to personalize at scale, I guess.
yeah. Yeah, the scaling that AI can do for HR is really one of the most exciting things. We're looking at a different technology where AI is gonna help us cross-reference all of our systems, the HR systems, the operations
Mm,
systems. I don't know that we'll go down this path, but it has the potential to say to us, here's some driver routes, here's where it could be more efficient, here's how much you're spending to be inefficient
mm,
because it has salary data too. Like it's going to have
yeah,
everything. And it's an analyst, right?
yeah.
Much less expensive analyst.
Yes, yeah, and possibly a more effective analyst in the sense that someone's still gonna have to look at that information and look at that data and then determine a plan, right? But it's like at
Yeah.
least if it can help to create a summary of data for someone to look at, to dig further into different things, it kind of does accelerate the ability for that person to sort of say, okay, I have the foundation now. Now let's act on it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it'll allow us to move much faster.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really cool. And so, what are some other ways that you're leveraging AI in the organization? Because these are the questions that I get from HR people all the time. Like, what are some other ways that we can automate? I love connecting sort of HR strategy to the business by being able to kind of tie those numbers together, because that's always sort of the biggest question that we have from people. But is there anything else that you're looking at too to kind of either automate either a certain job to be done or even a role entirely?
Yeah, nothing for a role entirely. We are using some AI to really help our recruiting team gain capacity. So
Mm,
everything from they'll put in details and, it'll come up with a standardized job description based on our organization that we can react to, which, is probably one of the simplest uses of AI, but this is doing it within our organizational bubble, if you will. But then
hey,
also
simple
being
is
able
good.
to click on, hey, these four candidates look great, or find me candidates that have this specific certification and email them, tell them we want to talk to them, and give them a link to my calendar. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like an assistant for my recruiting team to give them capacity because recruiting is such fluctuations in volume
Yeah.
that I'm not looking to hire and lay off and hire and lay off. What I'm looking for is where do I give him capacity because he's phenomenal and he really builds these amazing relationships with candidates. And
Yeah.
my hiring managers are just overwhelmed with how great the feedback they get on each candidate is. So I need to give him capacity because that is something that AI can't do. It can't have
Yeah.
that very, very meaningful conversation. And so investing in AI in the recruiting space has been important for us. And then we're always looking for ways that AI can come in and take away real, administrative tasks, things that can
Yeah.
buy us more time to make a bigger impact. So one that won't work for us right now, just because of our size and where we're at, but that I work with just in my spare time is one that does the coaching, right? So it does a interest assessment for every employee in the organization, and then you get your own coach. So as a manager, if you're managing me and you have to have a difficult conversation with me, you go into this AI bot and you say, I need to tell Stephanie that her performance isn't up to par because
Mhm.
she's not meeting these metrics. Given her motivators, what's the best way for me to have this conversation?
That's
Help me
cool.
practice.
Yeah.
So there's some amazing, amazing things that are happening, really enabling scale in HR, where like I'd love to have a leadership development person who can go around and coach
Right.
managers, but
Right.
realistically, it's not something we can invest in.
Yeah. And it's funny because sometimes people are more vulnerable and open to feedback from AI in the sense that if they're using it to prepare for a conversation, not that AI is giving you feedback from your manager, but that if your manager can use AI to help them frame a conversation to then have that conversation with you, people are more receptive to that because they find it more unbiased or they find it less biased in some ways because it can also be more grounded in truth because it's pulling from different data sources. It's not just I feel that this is happening. It's here's what my interactive data is telling me. Here's how I'm trying to use this to help you to improve. Knowing that people are using it to help them do the human part of the management job is, I think, a really good. I mean, for what it's worth, I think it's a good use of it.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I also think human nature is to be sensitive to feedback. And
Yeah,
so you can make a mistake
ego.
with AI and no one's going to judge you for it. And so it's a
Yeah,
safer place too.
yeah, yeah. It's funny because we see, I mean, All Voices is in the employee relations space. So it's kind of like when I was first learning about it, I was like, is that really, that's usually a more sensitive type of work, right? And what's been really cool is just like learning more about how the product really kind of allows employees to kind of give feedback and then summarize that feedback so that you kind of have more of a tool for that. And AI is sort of the thread that connects everything together. It's the part that kind of it almost makes it so that it feels less personal in a good way. So you can look at the feedback more objectively so you know what it is you need to act on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie, thank you. I know we're just at time. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to share before we go?
I think my biggest closing thought, especially for everyone in HR, is just stay curious. Like ask
Mm,
questions, seek context. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I'm with you. Curiosity, growth mindset the whole way, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
uh, well, Stephanie, thank you so much for being here. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.